Parenting Pause this week. I'm Leslie Potter, and if this is your first time to hear Parenting Pause, welcome. We talk a lot here about the foundational practice in Purejoy, which is called the SafeSeat. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about the SafeSeat, as you hear some of these podcasts, you'll hear me talk about it. You can always go to my website at purejoyparenting.com, which you might be there right now. But if not, you can bop on over there and get a 5-day free video series on the SafeSeat. Now, the SafeSeat is a process that I created in my parenting. I've told the story, and I'll just tell it again because it's been a while, and maybe, as I say, you may be new on the podcast. But one day when my daughter was young, I was out on the playground with her, and she was going to play the game of tag for the first time. And she was all excited. She was probably maybe about 5 years old, and she was watching all the kids playing and screaming and having a great time. So she runs out into the field, and she's running around, and they're all screaming until she looks back and she realizes that she's about to get tagged. And she freaked out. And I can't even remember what she did. I think she ran over to me and cried and held onto my leg. But if you have a kid that's played tag, you may have watched some of those reactions. And some of them that I started to watch in the game was, some kids would lay down on the ground and say, I'm sick, I'm sick. Some kids would run off the field and say, I quit, I'm not playing. Other kids would hit the tagger. It was just so many strategies I noticed when the kids were about to get tagged for that first time. Now, this was an amygdala response, and I'm sure you've been around for a while. You've heard about the amygdala. It's a little pea brain in the brain stem. That is where the fight, flight, freeze, fawn reactions come from. So this is what was happening to the kids. They were playing around, having a great time, and then all of a sudden, boom, they ended up, because they were afraid when they were about to get tagged, in their amygdala. Well, if you played tag or your kids play tag, you know that in the game we create a safe base, right? And when I grew up, it was always the tree. There was always a big tree that was the safe base. And when you were about to get tagged, you could run over to that safe base, hold on to the tree, take a deep breath. The tagger can't get you. You got to regulate. You got to get your breath. Then you would look out and you would see, oh my God, that's where all the fun is out there. And you would run back out again, and you would do this, umpteen times, having fun until eventually you got excited about getting tagged because you got to be the tagger. And then being the tagger was fun. So as I was watching this, I all of a sudden thought, I am getting tagged almost daily, many, many times in the day in my parenting, because I would be going along, having a good time, and it was fun. And then all of a sudden, my daughter wouldn't listen to me maybe the third time. And I was like crazy. I would run out of the room screaming, or I would scream at her, or I would just say, I quit. Just throw my hands up and say, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I started noticing that I had all these really young strategies, just like in the game of tag, which meant I was feeling threatened by her behavior, what she was not doing that I thought she was supposed to do. So I created what I call a safe seat. And I decided I was going to run over to that safe seat every time that I was about to get tagged and sit in that safe seat, take a deep breath, really bring myself back to the present, offer myself kindness, so that I could literally regulate my brain and get back up to my frontal lobes so I could be in my adult capacity, look out and see that, my daughter was not the end of me. My daughter was not out to get me. My daughter was just doing what she was doing developmentally, age-wise. And it was like amazing, this process. So I started practicing the SafeSeat process as often as I possibly could. And when I teach it, I tell people, 1 out of 10 times, if you just get to your safe seat or your safe base, wherever it is, you will begin to notice a difference. Because if you don't get to that safe seat, most likely you are going to do one of those strategies that maybe you did as a child. You may yell at your kid, you may consequence, you may punish, you may throw your hands up and say, just forget it, and, take things away. All of these things, remember, are coming from that amygdala hijack that's happened to you because you get afraid that you've lost your power, you've lost your control. And so if you can create that safe base for yourself, and as I tell people, it needs to be in the middle of the action because you don't want to leave the game. This isn't a meditation seat. We have another seat for that called the sacred seat. But the safe seat is where you go, can take that deep breath in the middle of the action. As long as your kids are not in danger physically, you can move to that seat, calm yourself, offer kindness. Such sweetness. And you'll hear more about this if you download that safe seat process, and grow yourself up so then you can come back into reality, see your child from your frontal lobes, from your adult self, and then be able to go up and support them in what they're going through. And then you become a safe base for your child because they're experiencing being tagged lots of times all day long from us with our pressure, our pushing, our pulling, our forcing, our agendas, everything. Remember, they experience those as tags. And of course, they have their strategies. Some of them just ignore you. You might have one that just throws a fit when you ask them what to do. Again, remember, they are getting tagged. They're not in their frontal lobe capacity because children don't have quite as developed frontal lobes as we do until they're in their late 20s, believe it or not. So they're going to be more in that reactive brain. They're going to feel tagged a lot. And so if we can become the safe base, recognize when we're feeling tagged, go to our safe seat, create safety internally, then we can take responsibility for triggering our child's feeling tagged, and then we can learn how to be with ourselves to learn how to be with them in an incredibly safe, beautiful way in the present moment. All right, lovies, I hope you have a beautiful week this week, and I'll see you next week on Parenting Paused. Thank you for listening to this episode of Parenting Paused. If you enjoyed the episode, do me a favor and share it with your mama friends. You can also leave a review wherever you listen, which will support getting the Purejoy message out. Come on over to the Purejoy Parenting Practice Facebook page or join me on Instagram to hear more. And don't forget to download your free copy of the Safe Seat course on the Purejoy website.